This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Grab your friends for an evening of interactive fun at the Denver Art Museum's next Untitled Artist Takeover, happening this Friday, October 25th from 6 to 10 p.m. Friday's Untitled event features Slam Nuba, a legendary collective of Denver artists bringing their award-winning slam poetry to the Dam. Untitled Artist Takeover with Slam Nuba is included with general admission and free for Dam members. Reserve your tickets today at denverartmuseum.org. That's denverartmuseum.org.
Today on CityCast Denver, we broke the story last week, and now we're going deeper into the push toward unionization at Casa Bonita. A majority of the cliff divers, puppeteers, magicians, and other performers told us they don't feel safe and the pay is too low. But everyone involved wants CB to thrive. So today I'm speaking with two of the performers hoping to unionize about what's gone wrong inside the Pink Palace and how the owners, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, are responding. Plus, stick around for a sponsored segment from our friends at Denver Film. I got to talk to the person who curates all the movies playing at Denver Film Fest next month about the ones I'm most excited to see. Don't miss it. Today is Monday, October 21st. I'm Paul Caroli, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, it's Paul with CityCast Denver, the podcast you're listening to right now. Before we get to all the latest drama at Casa Bonita, I have to take a minute because today is the final day of our fall membership campaign. We've had such a strong showing of support last week, and today we're looking for one final push. If you heard our messages last week and thought to yourself, I'll become a member later, today is the day. You've been with us through the deep dives into city politics, the stories about your favorite local spots, and the quirky, unexpected conversations that make Denver the amazing place that it is. I mean, come on. Is anyone else talking about how weird it is that Coors is fashion now? Or keeping you up to date on the latest conservative fear-mongering about a Venezuelan gang takeover? Or helping you understand exactly what it means for workers when they flip an iPad around at you at the coffee shop and ask for a tip? We love bringing you all this every single day of the week. But here's the deal. We can't do it without you. And seriously, becoming a member is easy. It's like paying for just one fancy latte a month, but with way more community impact. All you've got to do is hit that link in the show notes or head over to our website to become a CityCast Denver member. Every member helps keep our team of local journalists doing what they love, bringing you the stories you care about. And if you're already a member, thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. Seriously, we are so grateful to have you as part of our community. All right, Denver, that's my pitch. It's the last day of our campaign. Let's make it count. I'm here with one of our regular guests, stand-up comedian and Casa Bonita performer, Joshua Emerson. Hey.
Hi, good morning. How you doing, Paul?
Good morning. I'm good. And also joining us is Joshua's colleague at the Pink Palace and in this new unionization effort that we're going to be talking about, W.M. Riley Holmes. Welcome to the show, Riley.
Thanks for having me.
So, Riley, we've heard a little bit about Joshua's story on the show the last few years as you got this job, you started working there. But Riley, I want to hear from you. Why did you want to work at Casa Bonita in the first place?
Well, I'm a working actor, so, when I saw the chance to have a day job where I get to be a performer, which is, my passion, I have a degree in musical theater, I kind of, jumped at it, but I also, I thought, oh, this is Casa Bonita, so many people are probably applying for this thing, it's like all over the news, this was in last July, August, around that time, so I just kind of threw out my, my reel and my audition as kind of a fluke, and then they called me back. I got to audition for it, and they cast me. And my first day was in September, and I've been working there, just hit like a year last month.
When we were talking earlier, you told me you grew up in Grand Junction. I wonder if you grew up, did you visit Casa Bonita? Did you have a sense of this is not a usual kind of place?
So I went one time when we were visiting Denver with some friends.
Yeah.
And I have it truly feels like a fever dream. Like, you know how when you remember things from childhood, nothing is quite, geographically where you remember it being. So
yeah.
So I know that the restaurant looked relatively similar to how it looks now, but in my brain that is not how I remember it. All I remember was like, I was a picky eater as a kid, but even by my standards, the food was not great.
So let's get into it. I want to know if there was a moment when you, Riley, had an inkling that this job wasn't what you thought or maybe hoped it was going to be.
Well, without getting in too much into my personal politics, let's just say that I always assume when I enter a workplace some sort of adversarial relationship with management at a certain degree, just because I feel like, especially in a place like Casa Bonita, where, there is a corporate element that is running things, and when corporate runs into artistry, there is always going to be some clash. So I was kind of expecting that, and, I wasn't disappointed, but for a while there, I was, I was moving along at a steady clip. I didn't think there was anything too wrong. But then after a while, I think you just start to hear stories that add up and add up and add up about, we were told this, but then this actually happened. Or
Tell me one of these stories.
Well, I'm trying to think of a specific right now. The biggest one is I was hired at the same time as another friend of mine who was told, you'll be playing one of the roaming characters after a certain amount of time, because I was in rehearsal for the roaming characters and we got hired at the exact same time. And I watched them just keep telling him, don't worry, you'll be in Black Bart rehearsal soon. And it just never materialized. And there was just no follow through. He had no recourse to really ask because, he relocated for this job. And so it's risky to him to kind of be a squeaky wheel.
Yeah. So being Black Bart is like a position of prestige in the performing unit?
Being a performer or a roaming performer in general, being one of the people that adds to the immersive experience, one, you can get qualified to get paid more, and two, it's a better position because you're able to interact with the guests in a more direct way, as opposed to like the deputies positions or some of the rooted positions where you are sort of stuck in a location and you're only really interacting with the people that come by you, and also you have a job to do beyond acting.
Yeah, you serve a much more utilitarian purpose. Not to say that we don't have fantastic actors and improvisers in those roles and they really make it their own, but the deputies sell photographs. Mm-hmm. The wishing well attendant gives out coins to toss in the wishing well. Now, I've seen actors turn that into their own sort of magic, but roaming characters, your whole job is to walk around just creating magical moments for people and you have an extreme amount of freedom in which to do that, depending on how the guests choose to interact with you.
Freedom, also responsibility.
Yes.
These are kids, these are families. This is more than an acting job in some ways. Mm-hmm. So Joshua, I want to hear a little bit more about these specific instances of conflict where you all had problems with management. I know you've told me a story about a lime in one of your coworkers. I think people should hear that story.
Yeah. I think the Gorilla is a great place to start because one of the things with the Gorilla, it's my favorite position I've ever done. I love the ability to get into the suit, and the Gorilla's been traumatic for a lot of people for a long time, and to sort of take that and change it where the Gorilla's sweet now, and we're able to make those connections with kids, and we're able to even people that came here as kids that were scared by the Gorilla before, we're able to rebuild that relationship with them. And I think there's a kind of beauty in that Casa Bonita is changing from this thing that sort of like jumped out and scared you, and now the thing that scared you is welcoming you in and picking a booger and wiping it on you, and everybody's laughing, that type of thing.
Well, it speaks to the professionalism that you have to bring now. Like, there's so much higher expectations for Casa Bonita 2.0. 20 years ago, when this place was a dump, like, the Gorilla was scary because the performer was probably not as skilled.
Yeah, exactly. They're making decisions without fully thinking it out long term.
Yeah.
But one of the things with the Gorilla is that we get them some of the most like assaults by the guests. Sometimes because the guests are just overserved, or their understanding of how they can interact with people isn't good because the expectations haven't been put onto them at the very beginning when they're walking in. And it just became, it wasn't like one specific instance. It was over and over and over again. And it wasn't really a question of like, if this is going to happen again, it's like, when is this going to happen again? And every time it happened, it brought all of it all at once. You feel it all over again because you're like, again, somebody grabbed me. And there's one specific instance that happened to a colleague of ours where they were being a great gorilla. It was towards the end of the night during that danger hour that we have. So, a guest reached over, grabbed a lime from the bar, and through a fastball pitch, hit her in the face, and it got huge welt. And it happened in a way so quickly that the guests, they weren't even kicked out. They like moved on. Security wasn't able to find them. And so there was no closure for this employee. And there's still no closure because they wanted, it hurt them so bad that they wanted to press charges. And
I mean, yeah, what you're describing is assault.
Right. And in terms of like getting like the security footage and all those type of things, Casa wasn't, they're working on it now, but it wasn't just let's support our employee as they try to find closure from this thing that really hurt them, physically hurt them, but emotionally. The place where you go out and we are vulnerable as actors, go out and perform, do the things that we love, also try to make this experience as good as possible. We want to be, it's Mexican Disneyland, but we take that Disneyland aspect. We want to be as good as Disneyland in terms of the performances we're giving and the experience we're giving.
This episode is brought to you by the Denver Public Library. The Denver Public Library is working to create welcoming spaces where all are free to explore and connect. Libraries are one of the few places in Denver where people from all backgrounds and circumstances are welcome free of charge. Since 1956, Denver Central Library has played a vital role in providing access to transformative resources and information for all Denver residents. Which is why on Sunday, November 3rd, the Denver Public Library invites you to come celebrate the grand reopening of the Denver Central Library. You'll experience a renewed sense of wonder as you explore 6 floors of redesigned spaces, like the new Children's Library and the one-of-a-kind teen space. Enjoy live entertainment, refreshments, giveaways, and more. RSVP is encouraged at denlib.org/celebrate. That's denlib.org/celebrate.
Now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can stream DirecTV satellite-free.
These humans can stream all the top-rated national news channels on DirecTV, and now with no satellite dish.
This just in. Weather, sports, election coverage. DirecTV has it all, but something is missing. The satellite dish.
What are you doing?
I'm reporting the news. Back to you, Bob.
Here's some news. You're a buffoon.
Stream the top-rated national news channels. No satellite dish. Visit directtv.com. Internet required. Top-rated news based on 2023 Nielsen ratings.
So you mentioned a phrase I want to talk about a little bit more because you and I have talked off mic a little bit about the role alcohol plays at Casa Bonita. Mm-hmm. We think about this as a family place, but one thing I noticed when it reopened was they put in a lot more bars. They sell a lot more booze because that's how you make money. But the danger hour, Riley, what does that mean, the danger hour? Sounds like something you all talk about.
Yeah, so the danger hour is generally, we refer to, it's not like a generally specific hour, but it normally refers to about the last, hour and a half to 2 hours where the restaurant is open, because normally by that time of night, a lot of the families have left, and the people who are left are people who have been having a lot of drinks. They're mostly rowdy adults. Mm-hmm. At that point. And I think the atmosphere of, first of all, it's a very overstimulating place. I mean, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of lights. Second of all, it's owned by the South Park guys, and I think that brings a certain expectation of an anarchic sense of fun where it's like, oh, rules don't really matter, that sort of thing, even though they obviously very much do to performer safety. I think it just kind of creates this atmosphere where people think they can go a little wild. The problem with over serving, which, is a complicated issue to solve at Casa Bonita. As you said, there are 4 bars. So the problem is that people order drinks from their server and they come to the tables, and then bartenders who work at all different 4 bars have no idea, because they can go up to the bars and order. They have no idea how many drinks those people have had ahead of time. And, I'm not saying that the bartenders have to be perfect, because, I've been a bartender before, and I know that sometimes it is tricky. Someone acts completely fine when you give them their second drink, and by the time they've ordered their 3rd drink, you don't even notice it. And then you hand them their 3rd drink, and then you go, oh my goodness.
Yeah. chucked a fastball at the gorilla.
They decompensate quickly or something like that.
But every night there's a dangerous time where
Yes.
we have to be
Every
on extra,
night.
every night. Yeah. So like last night we had a group of frat boys come through that they were just trying to have fun, but you're like improving for your safety at that point because you don't know of like what like you feel like you can feel the energy where they could go a little bit crazy of something goes wrong if they didn't like something you said or didn't like buy into something that they're trying to do as well.
There's never a shift that has gone by when you're out on the floor where you don't either have a colleague warn you about certain customers or where you warn your colleagues about certain customers. Like, the number of times I've been a roaming character and I've told the gorilla, hey, there's a lady dressed like this, or there's a dude wearing this kind of hat. Avoid them at all costs. They feel like the kind of person who would grab you.
All right, well, I think I got to push back a little bit because I saw the documentary, Joshua. We talked about the documentary on the show a few weeks ago. There's a scene where Casa Bonita is like in an early opening and Matt and Trey are there and it clearly has the wrong vibe. Like they're not happy because it is too rowdy. And you can see Trey being disappointed by this. Like he's saying, this doesn't feel like Casa Bonita to me. I really got the sense from that they don't want this feeling either. Have you all seen them take steps to prevent this or to keep you all safer?
I mean, it's complicated because it's sort of all hands on deck type thing. Like people's seating are the first people that then they all give little spiels as they're taking people to their seats. But in terms of like, we wanted a safety thing put into the opening speech so that right away as they entered in, that the idea of performer safety was in guests' head. I think the Matt and Trey's version of the not rowdy Casa Bonita is true for most of the day. It's really at the end of the night when there's no more families, when the people a lot of the people that are there, they've been there for a couple hours and have been drinking, and that's when you see the consequences of that. And so it's really for most of the time, it is what Matt and Trey want, and then there's this time when it's not, and it is rowdy.
It's interesting that alcohol has become such a primary issue here for this as a workplace. It reminds me, we have a clip here. So I did reach out to Matt and Trey to see if they would do an interview. I mean, they said no through their people, as they have many times in the last few years when I've asked. But our producer Olivia found this clip of them talking about a strike in Hollywood that they had some experience with. These are Hollywood guys. They're very familiar with union activity. So I just want to play this clip for you all. They're talking about the South Park writers' room and see what you all think about this.
People kept emailing me, you guys going to go on strike? And I was like, God, I wish we could.
Yeah.
Then we wouldn't have to work.
And some of our writers did go on strike.
One of our writers tried. She kind of did. She voted for the strike. What they did is they got all the writers and they went down to the convention center when they voted for the strike. Remember? And they got, basically it was like this, hey, everyone, get together, we're going to vote for the strike. So like 20,000 or 10,000 writers went down to the convention center. Everyone, most of them drunk because they got out to dinner before. They're going to go out to dinner after.
Right.
And they got them all riled up and they all voted, like 90% of them voted for the strike. And honestly, because we, obviously unscientifically, but every single writer I talked to within 3 weeks was like, I wish I hadn't voted for the strike. They were all so instantly bummed.
I wonder what y'all think about that.
I mean, it comes from a point of privilege. They sold South Park for $900 million. They invested $40 million accidentally into their vision, their childhood dream. These aren't people. These are people that are sort of separated from the front line of like performing and the consequences of bad management. They don't have to experience the consequences that they with them empowering the wrong people and they don't have to experience it, I guess. And so that doesn't surprise me. Also, the thing they're talking about, the striking, that's different than unionizing. Striking is a tool. Forming a union is sort of having everybody's voices be as one, which I think is totally different. I mean...
No, that's very correct. Like you were saying, it very much is a point of privilege. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good that all writers are represented by the Writers Guild, but guys like Matt and Trey, they're not the ones that receive the most protections from it. They're not the writers who, have to scrape and claw to get story credit on, one episode of a TV show that means they can get a few more, $1,000 in order to, feed their families and pay rent or whatever, like that, unions are for everyone, but some people would be doing just fine without them, and Matt and Trey are those two guys, so it feels kind of rich for them to say, we didn't, we just don't want to work, because they are rich enough that they can afford not to work. But that is not the case for a lot of people, and that's why, like Josh said, striking is a tool, and it's not always a tool that anyone is eager to use. I don't think anybody wants to take time away from work that they like doing in order to say we should be treated with respect.
Well, you all have kind of taken a step towards that with this unionization effort. This is a bit of a leap of faith. There could be reprisals. Like we just heard what these guys how they talk about this kind of thing. I wonder how this feeling has been among the staff as you all have been working on this, like that leap of faith. I wonder if you could speak to that feeling.
I think there is a very strong sense amongst the people who signed cards for unionization. There's a very strong sense of solidarity and of confidence.
Absolutely.
And, I think we are very sure of our course of action. And I think, as I have said several times, I think we've done it out of a love of Casa Bonita, and we just want to make it a place where we want to work and be respected. And I think, we're taking comfort in that. We don't want there to be an adversarial relationship between us and Matt and Trey, or us and regular everyday management. We want to be able to work together. We just want to we want a means of recourse in case things don't work the way that we want, and, talking about like leap of faith and, striking and all that stuff. What I'll say right now is that despite how they say it, whether or not a strike happens is entirely in the hands of management, because we're going to make, demands, obviously, once we win the election, which I am completely confident that we will. And then it is up to them whether or not they want to be reasonable.
What specifically are you all going to be demanding?
Well, I think one of the things that I would really emphasize is that a lot of what we are asking for is not going to really alter guest experience at all. It is mostly just about, we're obviously asking for, more safety standards on the job. And a lot of that is mostly going to be proactive measures that the company can take. Because I know right now there's a whole code of conduct that guests have to read, but let's just say that I'm guessing it probably is the kind of thing that they just skim through. There's no
I never read that code of conduct.
Exactly.
Really?
There's no signage posted on the way in. We'd be asking for stuff like that in terms of security, making sure that all the security cameras are fully functional, not like one time when we found out that half of them had not been working for some time. It might not have been half, but there was a time when we found out, because when security incidents happen, we have to go to security and they have to see it on camera in order to get the people kicked out, so it doesn't turn into a they said situation.
Of course, yeah.
So when we found out that those weren't working, the kind of thing that's like, well, we should make sure that that's happening all the time. Obviously, we'll probably be asking for better wages, not, I wouldn't say extravagant wages. I would say we would want the number that Matt and Trey have very publicly spoken about all of their employees receiving, because bartenders make $30 an hour, servers make $28 an hour, and they work hard and they deserve that money, to be clear. If you were to take the most common number that people make on entertainment is $23 an hour. So we would be asking for what Matt and Trey have already described very publicly as a living wage. We would be asking for, job security of some kind, because Colorado is an at-will employment state, and it's not a great situation when you can be dismissed from your job for any reason or none at all. So we're not talking about altering guest experience a lot. We want people to come and be able to play with us in a way that is safe and fun for everybody. We want to be played with, not played at, like some guests do.
And during this whole process, we have done our very best to continue to make sure that we're entertaining people during this whole thing. That it's been a big point, a big emphasis to be as professional as possible, to be as good as possible during this whole thing.
I mean, as performers, if I were getting a job at Casa Bonita, I would think, wow, these are big Hollywood guys. This is new IP. There's so much potential here to grow with these roles and maybe define these roles. I don't know. Have you all been involved in any kind of conversations like that?
Yeah, I mean, because we keep resetting what the IP is. So what has been like 2 major swings at it that both have been thrown out, and we're sort of in a holding pattern right now.
Yes, and that kind of goes to a lot of a lot of the issues that we have been dealing with is that, like you said, and people who watch the documentary have seen too, massive creative changes coming down the pipe at the last second, which, as the people who own the restaurant, Matt and Trey, have every right to make creative changes, but it's more so the last minute nature that, can put employees in compromising situations when we aren't even clear about what we're doing, and guests less so, that creates, problems. Like Josh was saying, we had this whole, I don't know if I can go into specifics about creative.
I'd like you to.
Creative. I don't know if my NDA will allow me to go into.
Fair enough.
Creative decisions that were made, but we had a format for how we were going to tell a certain type of story, and then at the last minute that got pulled, and we went back to just being roaming characters, and all of the kind of lore that we had been creating was wiped. So there is definitely potential to create work on IP stuff there. But again, it's just we are on such unsteady ground all the time that anytime we're creating something like that, we can't help but feel, is this just, going to be completely temporary? Is this worth the effort?
Yeah. Is this a restaurant? Is this an amusement park? Is this the beginning of an entertainment empire? And all those things have different rules when it comes to the jobs and working people.
That's what's so fascinating about me is that there are so many talented people because Matt and Trey, incredible talents, but even the people below them, I mean, these are people that were working at the Marvel or at Disneyland, and so that's what excited me most about the job initially, is working with those type of people and seeing what they sort of create out of here, and I'm still am. I still want to see. It doesn't feel like Casa's finished. It feels like we're still at the very beginning of this journey, and I think it's going to be excellent wherever we get to.
Well, that's a really nice place to end. I know that Matt and Trey have voluntarily chosen not to recognize your union, so you are going to be doing a vote at some point. I hope it's all right if I check in with you all in the next few weeks as that happens.
Of course.
Well, Riley, Joshua, thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
And now, I am so excited to share a sponsored segment from our friends at Denver Film. I got the chance to sit down with Denver Film Fest's artistic director, Matthew Campbell, inside the C Film Center and ask him anything I wanted about this year's Film Fest. Matthew Campbell, welcome to CityCast Denver.
Thank you for having me.
So Matthew, we're here a few weeks out from Denver Film Fest, 47th year. This is a big deal.
Yeah, we're super stoked. It's going to be a fantastic year.
What's new this year?
Whole bunch. We've got some new venues. We're going to be operating up in the Highlands at the MCA Theater at the Holiday.
Oh, the Holiday. That's great.
We're going to have our opening and closing night there this year. Very excited about that.
I love that.
Yeah, really cool. They've been renovating it. It's a beautiful space, so we're super jazzed about that. A lot of exciting guests coming in this year. So
celebs.
Some big honorees. We have Patricia Clarkson receiving our John Cassavetes Award.
Mm-hmm. Can you introduce me?
Yeah, her film will be at the Holiday on Saturday the 2nd. It's Lily.
Okay.
And this film is a biopic about Lily Ledbetter, who basically the Fair Pay Act that was signed into law was named after her.
The Ledbetter Act.
Exactly.
Of course.
Yep.
So I was talking to friend of the show, Keith Garcia, who I know is your colleague here at Denver Film.
Absolutely.
And he was telling me, he gave me a little inside info on you as the artistic director, the curator of this festival. He said your tastes skew a little bit darker, a little bit weirder. What's the Matthew Campbell pick this year?
I would say over the years, my edge has softened, especially becoming the artistic director, because now you do have to program for a wider swath of our audience and not just my own weird taste.
That's nice of you.
But if I were to say one that would have that nice, bizarre, weird edge to it, it would definitely be Dragon Dilation. Yeah.
Dragon Dilation.
It is a split screen film.
Split screen.
French. It's a part of this kind of loose trilogy by this filmmaker. We've had all of his films in the festival in the past, but very bizarre stuff.
Is it black and white?
No, it's all in color, but part of it's a little bit more in like a weird sort of sepia tone, and then most of it's shot on film, but it's all over the map. Yeah, it's crazy stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
great.
love this time of year.
Yeah, it's fun.
These good movies start coming out.
Good movies coming out, absolutely.
It's exciting. And here we are in the theater at the C, in Theater 1.
We are sitting in House 1 of the C Film Center.
Tell me about the local interest movies, because that's always a big part of the Denver Film Fest. You all do a really good job of featuring and putting the spotlight on local filmmakers and also movies with local ties.
Absolutely. We always love to have our Colorado spotlight to show, the homegrown talent and really highlight the local stories, as you say. So a lot of great ones. Obviously, we do have 2 shorts programs, one for narrative shorts and one for documentary shorts.
Mm-hmm.
We have a documentary about Rocky Flats called Half-Life Memory.
We need to talk about that one.
Yeah.
I did a big project on Rocky Flats, and I happened to know the filmmaker.
Oh, do you?
We ran into each other several times while I was making a documentary podcast series like 6 years ago.
Okay.
So when I saw that the Half-Life of Memory was showing at the Film Fest, I was like, that's one I need to see.
Yeah, we'll definitely go. So the first screening on Saturday the 2nd, we'll have an extended conversation afterwards.
With Jeff
and some of the other, participants in the film and stakeholders and whatnot. So that'll have a little bit of it'll be like sort of almost like a mini panel.
The other one with a local tie that I knew I wanted to talk about was The Order.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So not necessarily a locally produced film, but very much strong local ties to it. So this film is based on a book co-written by Denver City Councilman Kevin Flynn.
He represents the southeast part of the city. He was a Rocky Mountain news reporter.
Exactly.
Who and the story itself is like sensational.
So very much so. So this story, it takes place in the 80s, and it is about a white supremacist group that within the Western United States started terrorizing communities by robbing banks and holding up armored vehicles, bring down the government and have nefarious plans, basically.
Bad guys.
They're the bad guys. But
the order of death.
The order of death. But another local tie-in to it is Alan Berg, who used to be a radio DJ for KOA, is featured in the film. He's
legendary.
Portrayed by Mark Maron.
Perfect casting.
Yeah, absolutely. So his family is going to be there. So it's going to be really emotional. The mayor will be there. Kevin Flynn will be there for a conversation after the film. Really looking forward to it. And that's going to be a big presentation at the Ellie Calkins Opera House on Friday, November 8th.
It's such a Denver story, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking earlier off mic that you got your start in this business bumming around to different film fests all over the world. You've talked about Cannes. We were talking about TIFF earlier in Toronto, Telluride, obviously down in the other side of the state. What is it about Denver Film Fest that's different and special that Denverites might not understand?
So the Denver Film Festival is really geared towards the community. So the nice thing and the unique thing about the Denver Film Festival is that we sit basically at the end of the calendar of the festival season. We're in early November, things are kind of wrapping up, and the award season is really kicking into full gear. So we're able to really cherry pick the best films that have premiered throughout the year at these other festivals, starting with Sundance and then Berlin and Cannes and Tribeca and South by Southwest, etc., and really curate from all these top festivals the best of the best and present that to our audience. And that's what we tried to do, and make it accessible so people can go see these films. Of course, things sell out, and we always encourage people to buy tickets early and to become a member of Denver Film so you can buy them before the general public. But by and large, if you want to come to the film festival, there's going to be a film that you can come see and just walk up to the box office and grab a ticket.
Tell me about the process. Where should I go to find the show times? How much do tickets cost? Give me the details that I need to know.
So everything can be found on denverfilm.org. The full program, the schedule, all the information about the films can be found on there. Tickets do vary on versus, general admission versus member ticket pricing. Special presentations are a little bit more expensive. But yeah, we try to keep it as low of cost as possible for everyone.
Matthew Campbell, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
And again, you can go to denverfilm.org right now to get your tickets for Denver Film Fest 47. The dates of the festival are November 1st
through the 10th.
Through the 10th. And before I say goodbye, I've got just one last reminder that this is the last day of our fall membership campaign. Become a CityCast Denver member today and get those good feelings and great perks. All you got to do is go to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. And if you're already a member, thank you. You're the best. Seriously, you're awesome. We couldn't do it without you. And if you're not, membership.citycast.fm. Head over there right now and sign up. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed the show, why not take a minute to tell Matt and Trey about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter, Hey Denver, and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you then. Podcasts. Listen to podcasts.